Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of This Rupee Cast featuring Dawn of War 2 Red-Rupee. Welcome back to Outer Reaches. Today we've got a game featuring VindicareX as our Dauntless Force Commander and Acra, of course, as our Ravener Alpha. So we're going to go ahead and get this one started here. Looks like Vindicare wearing some excellent Ultramarine DLC armor there. You can see the Ravener Alpha, of course, moving right into the power here. Gonna move himself and probably his next squad up to the next far out nodes there. Gonna try to take control of the far end of the map. Meanwhile, the Force Commander, bit of a slower army, takes a little while to get moving, has to go ahead and get himself the closer VP and rec points. Pretty standard cap order all around. You can see Acra not grabbing the VP right away, doesn't need that right off the bat with Tyrannid. They have pretty good map control and arguably a very powerful Tier 1 against Space Marine at the beginning here. You can see the tax going down and taking this bottom power. I like to do that as well. The tax tend to come out a little after anyone else's first squad, so generally if they sent an early squad to cap there, you can get your tax in, take some shots off, force them off the power, and then grab it for yourself. A quick bit of map control there. But he was unimpeded, so he went ahead and grabbed that for himself. And going to use his second scout squad now to go ahead and grab some other center victory points here. You can see already we've got the double Termagants moving in on the Force Commander. I'm sure he will move in here and probably pop his battle cry and knock a few back. Perhaps saving that for later. Meanwhile, we had a little engagement between the Hormagaunts and the Scouts and Tactical Marines. They did not fare as well as their spawn mates up here. Meanwhile, it looks like, as far as power's going, Acra's gone ahead and popped his generator, while Vindicare has only hit his first node. Gonna bring his tax up to support these scouts that were a little out of position against the Ravener and Termagants. But the tax are now in some good cover. Unfortunately, the Ravener Alpha pulling a good maneuver here and forcing melee on the Tactical Marines, really eliminating most of their DPS. They, in turn, are going to try to counter melee the Termagant broods. You can see a good split here. He didn't move both of the squads together. Always try to separate those squads when you can. Just about in any circumstance, it's better to have your squads separated than on top of each other. And you can see the Ravener tunneling here, not to get anywhere, but to access this tunnel to the rest of his army. He's building a tunnel right here next to his power, and the secondary one not far away from it to take out this this power farm. Just a node right now, really, for Vindicare. As Space Marine, in this matchup and in this map that the Ravener can really take good control of considering its layout. It's really your main objective as Space Marine is just to hold your natural power node and really just keep that and work your way into Tier 2. We saw a nice maneuver by Acra right here, moving his Termagants into the burrow to dodge a grenade and then popping right out a few meters away to turn and hammer the Force Commander. The Scouts did manage to quell that power bash, and they have retreated to their own power, you can see. The Scouts doing a little decapping over here. And pretty even back and forth so far. You can see Vindicare has managed to get himself a third squad of Scouts. I always like seeing triple Scouts. It's generally a sign of a player with good micro that can use 3 Scout squads effectively, so hopefully we'll see them pull some pretty nice maneuvers this game. And Acra now getting himself a Ravener Brood to add to the range DPS of his army. Force Commander himself has grabbed himself the Artificer armor, again going for a bit of the tanky over the quick. That's generally, I mean, between your Alacrity armor and your Artificer's armor early, so that's really what you're deciding whether you want speed or whether you want durability. Meanwhile, this center power node that tends to be contested throughout the game, getting decapped by some Hormagaunts here. Under some pepper from the Tactical Space Marines, they're going to go ahead and fall back. Meanwhile, another power bash is happening up top here with the Raveners and Termagants. You can see, oh, all 3 scouts have upgraded to their sergeants now. Sergeants becoming obviously much more popular now that they have shared damage and cannot be picked off nearly as easily as they used to be. But staying behind cover, as they know, between the Raveners and Termagon broods, they're really just not going to be able to handle that kind of ranged firepower, waiting for the support of the tanks and then destroying the tunnel. Meanwhile, Acra just trying to use this Ravener to cause a little bit more of the economy disruption that he can. And the Hormagaunts again going for some more requisition themselves. Here comes the range pile right onto these scouts, and a good grenade goes off. Nice shot. He managed to avoid most of the damage there by pulling his troops back, but he did tag a few of the Termagants. Those scouts are very low, they need to get out. They do retreat in time, only losing a couple models, and the techs are in a bit of trouble here. They're pretty low, should be able to take a couple more salvos before losing any numbers, but you can see again Acra spreading his army out very well so that the Tactical's flamethrower cannot do maximum damage on all of those squads and preventing any more than one of them from getting engaged in melee here.
Scouts ready.
Hormagaunts are coming up trying to surprise the scouts, but the Force Commander was waiting there. There he goes, grabbing one Hormagaunt and stabbing him down, making a mess of the whole place.
Ready to serve.
And these 3 scouts actually working very well for Vindicare, being able to use the utility of his grenades and giving him some quick map control that Space Marine is usually lacking. If you can control the 3 squads of scouts and keep your micro up, it's really advantageous to have all 3, especially in a Tyranid matchup where map control is really key, especially in the early stages of the game. As I said, your job as a Space Marine versus NID is to really just hold your primary power farm and get to tier 2 as soon as you can. Acra going a pretty heavy tier 1, now getting himself a squad of warrior broods as well, in addition to the 2 Termagants and Raveners he's already purchased and upgraded. The scout's a bit out of position there with the ranged damage behind him. Nade bought his Force Commander a little bit of time. There's no harm in throwing that out there. Remember, even if the grenade doesn't hit, if you force your opponent to either move out from behind cover or even just moving in general prevents their DPS, especially if it's a pile of ranged units like this. Again, the Ravener popping that tunnel, moving right on in with the burrow there. He's going to pop out his whole ranged army, I'm sure, and just start hammering this power farm. Meanwhile, you can see Vindicare moves in and drops that tunnel that was protecting his own farm and is going to go for a power bash of his own. Fortunately, Acra saw it coming and is moving on in with his range pile to counter the Tactical Marine. Again, good micro, keeping his Termagants away from the Tactical Marines, who could just engage them. Termagants do next to nothing in melee damage, so the Tactical Marines have reasonable melee damage and can knock out models pretty easily. Vindicare now moving himself on up to tier 2. While Acra's moving in with his force again, you can see a constant battle back and forth, just each player trying to hit that power farm. Also notice that the Force Commander has primarily been moving with a couple scout squads. This is a good tactic. You can see the Force Commander with a couple scout squads can hold off some of this. Another grenade. And a follow-up grenade on top of that. Just lots of grenades all over the place. As I was saying, the Force Commander can roll with 2 scouts, meanwhile the Tactical Marines can roll with the final squad and really gives him 2 task force, as you saw him pushing into the power earlier, and then using his Force Commander with the other 2 squads to keep both sides of the map. Another excellent grenade. Oh, he tagged a couple Hormagaunts there and managed to get his scouts out with only 1 loss, and did manage to cap this far rear wreck point. Always very good to try to get those, the natural so-called wreck points that remain matured for the majority of the map. The scouts a bit out of position again. You really got to keep your low HP scouts in green or yellow cover around this kind of range damage, and Vindicare's entire power farm has fallen. Unfortunately for Acra, he has managed to hit tier 2 and get himself a Razorback onto the field, while Acra himself just breaches the tech of tier 2. You can see the Warrior Brew is already upgrading to Adrenal Glands for the time being, going for some melee support to add to his ranged pile. And again, the scouts having to fall back near immediately. Another grenade, not quite hitting anything. He did move him back, and that was his force commander. Again, that little bit of time he needed. Not taking any range damage there while the army retreats. And as you can see, meanwhile, an excellent move by Vindicare. He's moved his scouts, tanks, and Razorback up to Acra's power farm while using his force commander to distract the army over here. And if he can get a good gen bash there, it could really even out the tech battle right now. So excellent play by Vindicare. He did drop the Ravener Alpha there while Acra was microing on the west side of the map, or north side, I'm sorry. These diamond-shaped maps confuse me a little bit. I just assume up is north when really left is a bit more north on this map, on all maps. Scouts again harassing the Hormagaunts. The Vindicare did manage to take down the entire power farm. It looks like his tax stopped capping there. I'm not sure why. Guess he's backing off with the Raveners coming in. Adrenal Grand Warriors and a Venom Brood now popping out of that Ravener tunnel just as it was built and moving in on this Razorback here and forcing it on back around. It looks like Vindicare is going to take the long way around. A shame he's using these Venom Broods up here. He could use this Ravener tunnel and come down behind it and really cut this Razorback off. He has the Adrenal Gland Warriors pushing it from the front. The Venom Broods could pop out right here and cut off its escape, but it looks like it's going to get away. It is buying Vindicare some precious time for his various squads to cap the map. You can see the scouts running around, grabbing the middle points here, while the Razorback makes its daring escape. The Venom Broods did take a slightly shorter route, so they're going to get some shots on that. Razorback's in trouble. He needs to get those... Oh, it looks like he's trying to engage in melee, but Venom Broods can fire on the move again, and... no, it looks... There it goes, the Razorback flying out of control, crashing into the Tower of the Ruins there. And another great grenade. Oh my goodness! Right in the middle of that squad of warriors. Not quite making up for that loss of the Razorback, but excellent grenades. Another thing I love seeing about triple scouts is triple grenades. There's always a slight bit of anticipation when you see that grenade go off, and you want to see whether it's going to kill or whether it's going to just completely whiff. And on the other side of that grenade is, of course, your enemy, who fears more anxiety than the anticipation of that grenade. Again, we see another grenade knocking out a Venom Brood warrior and severely injuring the other two, it looked like. But Acra has pushed Vindicare back and is taking control of the map once again. Then you can see the scout squads, and now aided by a librarian to add to Vindicare's Space Marine forces here. The scouts going to try to push these Venom Broods back, keep them off the field. Even without a vehicle, it's important to try to keep those away from the range blob if you can, because their range synapse certainly helps with the damage output on those Termagants and Raveners.